Hey Ferret fam, welcome back. Happy to see your face here today. We are going to be discussing the differences between owning baby ferrets and older ferrets and which will work for you. But first, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, leave a comment, follow us on Instagram. Now we do have memberships available on the channel now, anywhere between $2 a month to $10 a month. Each has different perks, so I will have the link to that below, or you can also just hit the new join button that my channel has now. Super excited for that, and I will have the perks down below so you can see what the difference is between each level. As always, all of my sources will be linked down below for the video. I am a pet YouTuber content creator here on YouTube as well as Instagram. I have 15 years of animal care experience spanning from horses to dogs and cats to small animals. And so today I'm going to be talking about pros and cons of owning baby ferrets versus older ferrets. So baby ferrets are called kits. You will hear me use both of those terms throughout this video. Kits are available from pet stores and backyard breeders as young as 6 to 7 weeks old, and there are a couple issues with selling ferrets much too young. The first being that ferrets that leave their mother too young, they are weaned much too early, miss out on the crucial socialization and training that their mother as well as their siblings provide for them. This is why when you buy baby ferrets from the store, which I advise you not to, they will usually have behavioral problems due to being separated from their families much too early. They may have biting issues, they may not react well to being handled. There are many issues that come along with being weaned too early. Also may make it harder for them to accept other ferrets down the line, but it is 100% not a guarantee. Most ferrets do just fine in pairs or groups or more, but you may have to dedicate more time in the introduction process. The first few weeks of a ferret's life are essential for bodily development and health. The colostrum and nutrients in the mother's milk are responsible for proper organ development, bone development, eye health. It is very crucial that ferrets get enough of their mother's milk when they are young. There may be an increased chance of health issues down the line. They may also bond too closely to their humans, which yes, can be a bad thing, leading to separation anxiety when you leave them for any periods of time. This can make them very aggressive towards you, very protective. They may have trouble accepting other ferrets, other people, other animals in general, unless you take the proper steps that you need to ensure that separation anxiety doesn't develop. Weaning by reputable breeders generally happens at minimum 8 to 10 weeks of age, but in my opinion 8 weeks is still much too young. Pazu was 8 weeks when I got him and he was still crying for his mom when I got him, so that's a big indicator to me that he probably wasn't ready. If you're interested in learning how to distinguish backyard breeders from reputable breeders, I will have a couple links below on how you can do that. Reputable breeders will begin the nip training, litter training, and handling process for you, but you will have to continue it because consistency is key when training animals. So be sure to read up on positive reinforcement training techniques before you get your baby ferret. And for your convenience, I have a bite training video and a litter training video, along with many great videos on having ferrets for beginners and so on my channel. First, we are going to dispel some myths surrounding owning baby ferrets because there are quite a few. Number one, baby ferrets develop a stronger bond to their humans than older ferrets do. This is a myth. While you will bond with your baby ferrets through litter training, bite training them, just spending time with them, this is something that can certainly happen with older ferrets regardless if you have to go through training with them or not. They are still 100% capable of growing a very strong bond with their humans. This myth is very harmful and one that I have heard on various occasions and often discourages younger folk from owning older ferrets. Number two, baby ferrets will be healthier than older ferrets. This is a myth, especially if you're buying from the pet store, which I really hope that you are not. These ferrets often have things like ear mites, intestinal parasites, upper respiratory infections, behavioral issues, and more. And this is all due to how they're raised, how they're bred. Genetics play a part in this, diet, lifestyle, and so on. Number three, baby ferrets are cuter. While this is an opinion, I do not agree with this whatsoever. I think that ferrets pretty much look cute and adorable all throughout their life. And then number 4, baby ferrets are a blank slate. While this is kind of true, it's not a guarantee. You can do everything that you were supposed to while training and raising your baby ferrets, but they can still develop behavioral issues, fear, aggression. Genetics is actually the very first factor in this. So if you get a ferret from a backyard breeder or a pet store, odds are no matter what you do while raising and training them properly, they can still have issues. Now we move on to some cons of owning baby ferrets. Number 1, you will have to continue their training, making them not ideal for larger families or families with small children. These families often are working full time. They have all these kids that go to school and do sports and activities. They just simply do not have enough time that babies need to thrive and to learn. Number 2, they are not ideal for first-time owners. If you are not willing to put in the research, the time, the consistency with training and researching before you actually get the ferret, baby ferrets are not going to be a good pet for you. Number 4, if you don't like animals that nip and bite, and there are many people who are like this, baby ferrets will not be for you. They love to nip. That is how they communicate with you. Even older ferrets that have gone through and finished their bite training, they will still do the occasional nip to maybe get your attention, to communicate something with you. So you do have to be okay with that, making them a large hazard to small children. Many ferrets have been returned because they have bitten small children in the house. Baby ferrets will generally be more expensive than older ferrets. Now we move on to the pros of owning baby ferrets. There are honestly not too many. It's the same with puppies. There aren't too many pros to owning puppies, but the number 1 pro, in my opinion, is you will generally have much more time with that animal. However, this is not a guarantee, especially if you live in the US, where all of our ferrets are inbred, poorly bred, and have a lot of genetic diseases and issues. Most of the time, if you get a baby ferret, you have a longer time with them. And then number 2, it's usually easier to switch their diet. Ferrets imprint on their food at a very young age, and so when you try to switch them as babies, it tends to be easier. However, I have helped switch many young ferrets, and they have been as equally as stubborn as an older ferret, so that's not even a guarantee. Now we move on to owning older ferrets, and first I want to also dispel some myths surrounding owning older ferrets. Number 1, older ferrets probably have a disease. Now, of course, this is a possibility in any animal that you adopt. Many people avoid adopting older animals for this exact reason. For those of you who live in the US, again, we have the unfortunate reality of having access to pretty much only inbred ferrets, so there's really no way of avoiding this in baby ferrets or older ferrets that you get. Number 2, you don't know what you're getting with older ferrets. This is actually a myth. Older ferrets and senior ferrets are already emotionally developed, so you already know their behaviors, their physical traits, emotional traits. You already have that information on them prior to adopting them. Number 3, older ferrets will not love you as much. This is 100% false. Older ferrets have the same capacity to love and appreciate their humans just as much as baby ferrets do. It may take a few weeks or a few months for them to fully warm up and open up to you, because a lot of them have baggage from being tossed around from home to home or just bad experiences in their past. They can absolutely learn to love you just as much. Number 4, buying older ferrets from rehome sites like Craigslist are risky and should be avoided. I'll link below a really good recent video on this topic that I encourage all of you to watch, but this is a myth. You should, of course, be cautious with anyone that you're getting rehomed ferrets from, but don't avoid these rehome sites because you're scared. They are great opportunities on there to get older ferrets. If you are a minor, I do suggest doing this with a parent. Don't try to meet up with people or contact people on your own. There are a couple cons to owning older ferrets. Number 1, as mentioned before, they might have some baggage. Some ferrets are tossed between home to home. Maybe they have some fear, aggression issues because of previous experiences, and the shelter will make sure that you are aware of these things prior to adopting. But please do know that this isn't permanent. They just have to work through it and learn to trust you. Number 2, possibility of age-related issues like arthritis, sight and hearing loss, and more. But again, due to poor breeding in the US, deafness is actually quite common from birth. Ferrets can adapt without their sight and even some joint issues too. If needed, There are many natural joint supplements, and if your ferret needs a wheelchair, there is a great group online that I will link below that creates wheelchairs for ferrets. Number 3, undesirable behaviors. Some older ferrets may have been trained to do undesirable things, and this is usually done completely unintentionally. They may have been reinforced to bite during play or to poop in really weird areas, pretty much anything. But as the saying goes, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and the same applies for ferrets. Number 4, it may be harder to switch their diet. Of course, this is not a guarantee, and with my program, I have switched ferrets as old as 8, 9 years old just fine. Maybe takes a couple weeks. For Tanji, who's 3 years old when I got him, he switched in about a week, making it my easiest personal switch to date. If you have a mentor during your switch to raw, if that's what you choose to do, it makes things a lot easier. So I will have a link to my mentoring program below. And then number 5, unfortunately, your time with them will probably be shorter. But those older ferrets in the shelters deserve loving and caring homes for the last few years or months, whatever they have left. It makes me so upset to see people completely disregard older ferrets and senior ferrets simply because they're old and they don't want to have to deal with them at the end of their life, and it's just so sad. You don't want them to have to spend those last few years in a shelter. Even though you could lose them so soon, many owners will do it time and time again because the joy is so much more. Now we move on to the many pros of owning older ferrets. Number 1, most older ferrets will have gone through bite training and litter training. This saves you a lot of time, and I mean weeks to months of your time. You will have to keep up with it. Consistency is key when training animals, and keep reinforcing that good behavior. But of course, this is not a guarantee. Don't go into it thinking that you will automatically have a litter trained and bite trained ferret, because this is not always the case. This is just what happens most of the time. Number 2, older ferrets are already emotionally developed, as we mentioned before, so it'll be easier for you to figure out if these ferrets will better suit your home. Maybe you're looking for a pair of super active ferrets. You'll be able to determine that right when you go to the shelter and you hang out with these ferrets. Of course, when they get home, they may have some minor adjustments with their behavior as they grow comfortable and you gain their trust. Number 3, since you will find most older ferrets at shelters, they will have already been seen by a shelter vet. Shelters will not intentionally adopt out sick pets, and if you do adopt ferrets that need medication, they will make sure that you know what you're getting into, what medications they need, and they will give you instruction. Number 4, again, ferrets are like permanent babies. It doesn't matter what age they are usually quite playful up until they get really old. Maybe they develop something like arthritis that inhibits them a little bit, but in general, they are very, very playful. All of these pros are what makes older ferrets great for new owners. I hope this video helped you better determine if baby ferrets or older ferrets will fit better into your lifestyle. Feel free to comment below your experience with owning either. I'm sure that new owners would love to read your stories and your thoughts and opinions on the subject. But anyways, guys, do not forget to subscribe or join my membership program if you want to. But I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!